Beyond the Bio, hosted by Marty Lennertz. This Beyond the Bio segment is brought to you by Giordano's. Giordano's, we made it good, you made it famous.
Seeing the Beatles for the first time, was that a life-changing experience?
On Ed Sullivan? Yeah. Oh, totally. And I didn't expect to like them. I wasn't buying into the hype.
You didn't like their music all that much at that time.
Well, actually, I hadn't heard much of the music at the time.
Right.
You know, they hadn't been around that long in the States. And I was an R&B fanatic, still am. And I thought it's going to be like four Pat Boones with funny British haircuts and accents and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And were you familiar with the cover songs that they had been doing at the time in the original R&B versions?
Well, I knew the original R&B versions.
Yeah.
I hadn't really paid much attention to them because I was kind of put off by the hype. And I watched Ed Sullivan that night. And this is something I tell my students at Columbia, how incredible it was because there were only 3 TV stations, networks. You couldn't TiVo it. So you had to watch it live, and it was like a tribal thing. Like everybody watched that night. You know, my dad was a plumber. He found out the toilets quit flushing when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan. They measure these things.
How did we all know about that? How did everyone know that that was
There was
show
a buzz.
to watch?
There was a buzz. There was a big buzz, and it was just a few months after John Kennedy was assassinated. And I really do think there was a correlation there, at least for the American experience of Beatlemania, that we were looking for something to cheer us up again, because it was like, talk about a communal tribal experience. Everybody was in mourning. It was horrible, and I watched that night and very skeptical, and I thought, I kind of like them, because it wasn't like the Pat Boone kind of, poor Pat, I always pick on him, but it wasn't like the Pat Boone thing where they would just do a liposuction of the soul and sing the words and the notes and not make music. These guys made music, and they were having a great time. I think that's what really got me, is they seemed to be really having a great time. It wasn't polished Las Vegas, they're doing the moves and all that, and they all wore matching suits, but that's where it stopped. Then they each had a distinct personality. And there's a moment actually during She Loves You that I didn't notice, it might have been subliminal, but years later somebody got me a bootleg video of the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, because we didn't get to see it again for like 20 years, and I watched it thinking, why did this change my life? Why did this grab me so much? Because, you can't possibly know when it's happening that's going to change your life, So 20 years later I'm watching it, and there's a moment when John and George make eye contact, and it's very spontaneous, and they break into this grin and like, yes, and then go right back to what they're supposed to be doing. And it probably sort of flew by me at the time. I didn't go, oh, look at that, look at it. But I think that moment represents what that was about. It was spontaneous, it was fresh, it was new, it was real. It wasn't show business.
Now, they were playing live too.
Yeah, of course, and they were having a great time. So of course, immediately we all joined bands. We started learning how to play guitar, and made friendships that last forever. And that was just this energy burst. I mean, it was just a remarkable phenomena. It was more than just the music.
You said that the reason that you're in radio, that you wanted to be in radio, is because you wanted to meet the Beatles.
Yeah, I didn't want to scream and chase them down the street. Of course, they're never going to come to Piqua, so I knew I was going to have to go to them somehow. And I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work, but it was seeing, and this is a true story. I know it sounds made up. Sounds like our promotions team made this up, but it's a true story. Saw a picture when I was in high school, saw a picture of Jim Stagg, Cleveland disc jockey, interviewing Ringo Starr. I read the caption. I thought, wow, if I could be a DJ, I could meet the Beatles and sit and talk to them and hang out with them and go on cover the tour. And that sounded like a pretty good idea. I hadn't stopped to think, do you hear any women disc jockeys out there tearing up? But it was a dream. So when you have a dream, you don't sit there and be pragmatic about it. But eventually I did have to kind of figure out, well, what's the next course of action? How does that happen? And that's why I picked Elmhurst, because I saw this campus radio station where I could, it's like jumping into the pool and learning how to swim. I wanted to learn how to swim.
And that is such a lofty ambition. I mean, someone could say, I want to make $1 million. Well, there are ways to do that, but to meet the Beatles. It was
insane. Yeah, it was insane. Or even just to be a disc jockey.
Right.
I mean, I didn't tell people for a long time because I knew I'd get laughed out. It'd be like, I want to be president, haha, yeah. And it was sort of like a secret dream. In fact, my first time on the radio was on Dusty Springfield's birthday. I was home, the band I had, we were having a birthday party for Dusty. She wasn't there, but we had a party for her anyway. And we called the Dayton radio station, WING, that I grew up listening to, and requested, I only want to be with you. And the guy said, where are you calling from? Piqua, you know. And what are you doing? Oh, we're having a birthday party for Dusty. Yeah. I felt like such a geek. And he goes, hang on, I want to put you on the air. I went, no, that's okay. And he put me on I thought I was going to throw up. I was so nervous and excited and scared because it was so important to me. And it was amazing. And I felt like such a nerd, too, because here we were on a Friday night in Piqua having a birthday party for Dusty. But it was fun. We had a good time. And when my friend Peggy, whose house it was at, when her mother passed away, I called her and I said, you know, your mom paid the long-distance phone bill for my first appearance on the radio. Remember that? And she remembered it like it was yesterday. But that's what's great about music and all this stuff. It really connects you to other people, and it's just a huge memory maker. I mean, I've made great memories. I'm still making them, you know, all the time. And music has connected me to so many wonderful people, and not just the music makers and the stars, but the other people that love music. It's great. That never gets old.
No. Is meeting Paul your biggest thrill?
Oh, that's huge. And it never gets old. He's wonderful. And
You've met him how many times now?
Oh, God, about 4 or 5 times,
Wow.
and several times on the phone. He's wonderful.
Does he know you at this point?
He does, which stuns me, and I didn't believe that until Jeff Baker, his assistant, said, oh, no. In fact, a couple times I had to call his office in New York, and they, oh, yeah, well, Paul would want you to, you know, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, I guess he likes just the fact that I don't ask dumb questions. And, you know, he knows I'm a fan, too. He's teased me about it on occasion. And it's funny because Paul wasn't even my favorite Beatle. I was always a John girl, but I admire Paul so much. And he's just a great guy to interview. And, you know, for all he's gone through, he could be the biggest SOB in the world. Not. You know, I mean, and what I like about them, too, the 4 of them, like, came out in the anthology where, I think it was Ringo said that poor Elvis was by himself surrounded by all these psychotic people who were just leeching on him. And the 4 of them had each other, and when one of them would get down or get big head, the other 3 go, yoo-hoo, you know, back to earth. And that was amazing. And, you know, it showed. I mean, they stayed relatively sane for all they went through.
Right.
Stay tuned. More Beyond the Bio segments will be online soon.